Chapter 13. The Deep Breath Before the Plunge. Part 1. As the first light of dawn kissed the encampment, its soft golden rays crept over the tents, the chirping of birds mingled with the distant sound of the stream nearby, heralding a day that promised to be unlike any other. The company started emerging, sleep still clinging to their features, bewilderment settling in as they beheld the aftermath of the night, a scene marred by chaos and blood. In the center of the encampment stood an ancient oak, its gnarled branches casting eerie shadows over the ground where lifeless bodies of assassins lay sprawled. Their malevolent eyes, once filled with harrowing intent, now stared vacantly at the sky. And there, leaning against the tree, vulnerable yet defiant, was Rufia, broken and bloodied. Bowerman's heart thudded in his chest, a mixture of rage and fear surging within him as he surveyed the carnage. His jaw ground together, and a low growl escaped his throat as he made sense of the scene before him. The blood pooling on the earth painted a grim picture, and he could feel the flicker of hope extinguishing with every twitch of Rufia's still form. "Is he, Melusine?" Bowerman's squire murmured, his gaze darting between Rufia and the horrid remains scattered about. A single tear slipped down his cheek, an astonishment to his own heart. Rassiquin took 10 measured steps toward Rufia, the smattering of blood-tainted soil squelching beneath each boot. He sucked in a breath, charging himself with resolve, and knelt beside Rufia's inert body. The rhythmic pounding of his heart crescendoed in his ears as he placed a trembling hand over the man's chest, pushing gently. A flicker of hope illuminated his expression. Rufia's heart was still beating, albeit faintly. "He's still alive," Rassiquin shouted, urgency pouring like molten iron through his veins. "Help me carry him. Get him into my tent, quickly." Bowerman barked, instinctively barking orders as he felt the weight of responsibility settle upon him. "Reynauld, check their bodies." Reynauld nodded, heart racing at the revelation. He turned to ransack the fallen assassins for clues, hoping for something, anything, that could illuminate their motives. Inside Bowerman's tent, Rassiquin barked orders to Sigrid, his voice low and urgent. "Get me hot water and clean cloth. We need to bind his wounds. Walter, help me with Rufia's clothes." As they peeled away the layers of bloodied linen, a chasm of horror opened before them. Rufia's body was a canvas of agony, lacerations and punctures adorned his skin like morbid art. Rassiquin's breath hitched as he examined the wounds, whispered words of gratitude slipping from his lips. "It's a miracle you're alive, my friend." Walter worked with deft hands, stitching the lesser wounds while Rassiquin cleansed the deeper gashes. As Sigrid returned with water, the gravity of the situation descended upon her like a leaden shroud. The sight of Rufia brought tears to her eyes, and she momentarily stepped outside of the tent, processing the gruesome reality of her friend's condition. The world outside continued oblivious until Sigrid came out. Goderoy stood close to Sigrid, held her shoulders to catch her gaze, anxiety lining his face. "How is he?" "It's bad, he has wounds everywhere," she stammered, rushing to bring more supplies. In that moment, Reynauld returned with information that rattled through the tension-laden air. "Sir," he addressed Bowerman, panting, a brief flash of triumph in his eyes. 4 were human, but 1 was an elf. They all bore wicked weaponry, and this. He held up a small sack, emitting an acrid smell that was curdled with malice. "It's the same poison found on the fallen knight. Also, I found this scroll." Bowerman's expression darkened as he spread the parchment before him. The list of names glared back cruelly, but it was the final name that struck like a spear, his own. Just then, Rassiquin emerged from the tent with bloodied hands, his face a tapestry of determination and exhaustion. "My lord," he addressed Bowerman, "we did everything we could do. But there's poison in one of the wounds. We must take him to Caron. I fear for his life." "We shall make haste," Bowerman commanded, steel edging his voice, his heart raw with anguish for Rufia. "Take men with you, and prepare the carriage. We cannot lose him." "I'll go ahead and warn him, my lord," Melusine interjected, surprising everyone. seeing his spirit alight with determination. Bohemond nodded. Under sunlit skies, the awe-inspiring capital of Caron loomed large, its white towers catching the light like diamonds scattered among the clouds. The group approached the towering white gates. They were greeted by a cacophony of life. The cries of merchants peddling their wares melded with the fervent sermons of religious zealots, and the sound of armored boots echoed along the cobblestones. Soldiers milled about, the air heavy with a mix of anticipation for the upcoming tournament and the weight of the unknown. The crowd surged forward, pulling Rasiquin, Melusine, and the others into Caron's majestic embrace. Each towering wall bore witness to centuries of conflicts and alliances, a fortress city glimmering with promise and peril. Their carriage rattled to a halt outside the grand temple of Shalia, a sanctuary dedicated to healing and hope. The temple's marble facade gleamed like the dawn, drawing in the weary and wounded alike. The group disembarked, urgency propelling them forward. Inside, the healers sprang into action, attending to the injured soldiers who poured in as if the ebb of battle still lingered fresh. But as they laid eyes on Rufia, the air turned thick with concern. Rasiquin caught snippets of their whispered dread. This was no ordinary poison. Rasiquin, one healer murmured, her brow furrowed in apprehension, this wound, we've never seen anything like it. Before he could respond, a voice echoed from the corridor, a commanding presence that sliced through the murmurs. I know this poison. It belongs to the Black Assassin Guild of Muragliano in the sunny land of Tyle. Someone paid a handsome price for their services. They do not usually fail. The speaker, a man clad in tattered robes interwoven with armor, stepped into the light. A massive two-handed sword adorned his back, its blade marked with intricate runes that seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. Rasiquin's heart skipped. He recognized the man instantly. Rainet, it's been a while, he exclaimed, disbelief washing over him like a tide. Indeed, it has, Rainet replied with a knowing smile, but we will catch up later. Right now, let's focus on your friend. With a somber nod, Rainet commanded the other healers to leave the room, offering a grave hush in their wake. When the last figure exited, Rainet approached Rufia's bedside. The echo of footsteps faded as he placed his hand gently over the poisoned wound, murmuring a powerful incantation, cure poison. As if compelled by unseen magic, a soft, radiant glow enveloped his hand. Rasiquin watched, breathless, as the putrid odor and the grotesque discolored flesh gradually faded away as if banished by the light. It seems I'm not the only one with secrets, Rasiquin said quietly, a hint of admiration coloring his voice. Rainet smiled knowingly, brushing back a stray lock of hair. There are many tales waiting to be told. After applying fresh bandages to Rufia, they stepped out of the chamber where Melusine waited, eyes wide with worry. He's fine now, Rasiquin reassured him, taking note of the calm that washed over his features. But he needs rest. Melusine nodded, the rigidity of tension slipping away, a subtle ease of hope instilling its place. As he turned around he observed the people milling around the temple, recalling the self-serving skepticism he'd harbored about unity and loyalty. He had perceived only cold ambition and selfish desires. Now, he saw camaraderie, soldiers scanning the room with worry for Rufia rather than for their own wounds. Maybe, he thought, he had judged too harshly. Time ebbed slowly, and soon, Rufia's friends flooded the temple, filling the air with joyous commotion. Bardon, Vincent, and Berenguer joined the gathering, buoying spirits like sunlight pierces through grey clouds. Melusine, buoyed by Rasiquin's assurance, slipped away to inform Bohemond of the progress. Later, Rasiquin found himself seated in a bustling tavern, sharing tankards of ale with Rainet. The air inside was thick with laughter and the melodic clinking of mugs, a testament to life persisting. Rainet spoke of his narrow escape from a band of orcs, a story punctuated with wit that left innocent ears hanging on the edge of grim excitement. He concluded with tales of wood elves and their ethereal habitats. I even learned that spell from a druid, he said, laughter dancing in his eyes. Rassiquin shared his paths forged in punishment, the tranquil reflections he had unearthed in Bastogne, and of Rufia's near-death experience, those ominous dreams he had that spoke of dark gods encroaching upon their world. Survive an attack by 5 assassins. Raynet shook his head in disbelief, his amusement faltering. I can scarcely digest what you're telling me, Rassiquin. You tread on paths wrought with shadows. As the sun dipped low, they parted with promises to meet again amongst the banners of Caron. Separate paths unfurling, yet anchored by a bond ever strong. Meanwhile, fate wove its darker tapestry. Bohemond stormed into the castle's throne room, frustration sharp upon his brow. Safe? He scorned, cutting through lofty proclamations. Assassins rattled my routine nearly to death. Among their belongings, I found a scroll, names of high nobility across Bretonnia, even the king himself. Whispers erupted, a chill knitting between nobles as dread sank into their hearts. And to add meat to the bone, those assassins served Slaanesh, he declared, his voice heavy. Silence enveloped the room like a shroud, air thick with disbelief. Before breaking that silence, the king, knotted with worry, inhaled, "You bring grim news, Bohemond. We've caught whispers of spies, dark plots stirring like the restless seas. For now, rest, and we'll convene further at tomorrow's banquet." With a respectful bow, Bohemond withdrew, the gravity of his message heavy upon him. As evening descended, Rassiquin returned to check on Rufia and found Melusine guarding the door. Concerned brows raised, he asked, "Is everything all right?" "Yes," Melusine replied, but held a look in his eyes that whispered secrets unsaid. When Rassiquin drifted away, he tried to mask something, an emotion buried deep, but Melusine, intuitive as ever, sensed a disturbance in his heart. As soon as Rassiquin was out of sight, Melusine entered Rufia's room, his breath catching in his throat. There, below the fabric, a white glow pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. As he removed the linens, shock seized him. "The wounds, they have all healed."